It's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Nick Knight. Thanks for coming over. He's here local. He's with nickscomputerguys.com. For most people, the journey from Los Angeles to Phoenix takes about 8 hours. For Nick Knight, a California native, it took 13 years on a somewhat less direct route via Washington State and New York before landing in the Valley in 1984. Along the way, he acquired one wife, 2 daughters. He has enjoyed successful careers as a professional photographer, award-winning audiovisual writer-producer, and graphic designer prior to finding his calling for the last 32 years as a computer whisperer. During those last 3 decades, he owned an award-winning audiovisual production company, helped create a national publication center for Trans-America Real Estate Tax Service, created and managed a uniformed information technology infrastructure for a commercial mortgage banker with 5 offices in 3 states, and was part of an award-winning IT support team for GMAC Commercial Mortgage before starting his own technology service firm in 2004. Nick began his company with the primary focus on providing a personalized level of service that he felt was missing from some of the big box and chain computer service shops. He describes his company mission statement as a cross between the Golden Rule and Boy Scouts, to treat his clients the way he wishes to be treated and always try to do the best. That formula has served him well as he recently celebrated his 13th year in business. Nick found his way from Scottsdale to Ahwatukee, courtesy of Match.com, in 2008 and joined the Ahwatukee Foothills Chamber of Commerce in 2010 to immerse himself and become an active participant in this close-knit community. Active might be an understatement. Since joining the Chamber, Nick has served as an ambassador, networking leads group facilitator, event volunteer, helped develop and coordinate the Chamber Ahwatukee Business Development Educational Program, been a member and silver sponsor of the Public Policy Committee, facilitated and sponsored the Ahwatukee Chamber Computer Lab, maintained the Chamber's computer systems, and helped charter Arizona's first Chamber-associated Toastmasters Club. Nick currently chairs the Public Policy Committee and is president of the Ahwatukee Chamber Toastmasters. That is awesome. Nick believes strongly in the obligation to give back to the community that has so warmly embraced him, and his commitment to that principle extends beyond the Chamber. Nick and his wife Angela hosted for several years an annual Wine Luck to benefit Child Crisis Center, and Nick has volunteered as Feed My Starving Children and several events at the Kyrene Foundation, including the recent Stuff the Bus Drive, where volunteers assembled packages of donated school items into more than 500 backpacks for disadvantaged children. He was honored for his service as the inaugural Chamber Ambassador of the Year in 2012 and Volunteer of the Year in 2013, and has been nominated several times for Small Business of the Year. Please welcome owner and chief technologist of Nick's Computer Guys, Nick Knight. God dang, what a bio. That is, you are, so were you a Boy Scout when you were little?
I was.
It is, and it was, and you also said the Golden Rule, which treat other people.
Do other people the way you want to be treated.
You know what I find the most interesting about the Golden Rule? My oldest sister is a Catholic nun, and she says that if you study all the major religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, that is the only statement found in every religion. And that, in her mind, that's her proof that everyone's praying to the same God, because she says it's perfect plagiarism. I mean, so somebody... You know, it was such perfect plagiarism that's her belief in that. So Boy Scouts did that too. Leave the playground better than you found it.
That and of course, the basic concept of leaving nothing but footprints. Take only photographs.
Say that again.
Let's see, who is that? I'm blanking on the name. Famous quote is, "Take only photographs, leave nothing but footprints."
Nice. So, so how did you find Ahwatukee on Match.com?
Well, my wife lived in Ahwatukee, and I was living in Old Town Scottsdale, and we found each other on Match.com. It was easier for me to move than for her, since I worked out of my home, and my work, it doesn't matter really where I live. I can go anywhere.
I put my profile up on Plenty of Fish, and they took it down. They said, "Dude, you're a whale. Lose 50 pounds and be a skinny fish." But that's awesome. So a Match.com success.
Yeah.
That's so a computer person like the technology of finding a match, as opposed to the old school.
I'm just not into the bar scene.
Right, and yeah, that's usually on a date you shouldn't be where it's loud and you can't talk and you can't hear. So, my gosh, I don't even know where to start. Let's start with the Chamber of Commerce. When did that actually start? And were you at the beginning of that too?
Oh, no. The Ahwatukee Chamber, that goes back, it's over 25 years old. And so it was in existence long before I was in Ahwatukee. And it's had ups and downs like pretty much anything. But, there are a few notable people. John McComish was one of the original members. And so it's been around for quite a while. It used to be in the old firehouse up on 48th Street in Warner.
Oh my gosh! I remember that firehouse.
And so
now it's what, an insurance agent or something?
Last time, unless it's changed, it used to be a holistic health center.
Yeah.
And massage therapy and that sort of thing.
Is that what it still is?
I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head.
I haven't even. It's funny how when you drive, you're kind of on a computer robot. I mean, I drive by that 10 times a week, and I haven't even looked over there and noticed what's over there. But that's where it used to be?
Yeah. Wow.
I wonder why they would have left that. That seemed like a good location.
They were trying to. They've gradually moved. They've been through. This is their third location since I've been a member, and it basically positioning themselves in a more visible area. I think they're probably going to stay where they are right now.
And where are they right now?
They're in the First American Title Building on Chandler Boulevard and 45th Street.
Are you still involved with the Ahwatukee Chamber of Commerce?
Oh, heaven just.
So, like, how often do you guys have like a monthly meeting, or what?
They have a variety of monthly events. They host a morning and an evening mixer. Get to know your chamber breakfast. Those are their solid monthly events. Toastmasters meets every Friday, and then.
And where does the Toastmasters meet?
We meet in the First American Conference Title Room, same building as the chamber.
And are you in charge of the Ahwatukee Toastmasters?
Right now, I'm president.
Well, congratulations, my guy. You got more tricks up your sleeve than. They always say public speaking is some people say it's the number one fear.
It is. Statistically, people fear public speaking more than they fear death. And as I tell people about when I'm talking about Toastmasters, well, we can't help you with the latter, but we can definitely do something for the former.
So why do you think? But to keep it honest, I've never been at a funeral and they said, "Well, at least he's not speaking." But why do you think people are afraid of public speaking?
I'm not really sure. I mean, there's something about getting up in front of people that, for some, it's just absolutely petrifying.
Now, was that you in the very beginning? Did you join?
If you go back to high school.
But I mean, did you join Toastmasters in high school?
I didn't join Toastmasters in high school. I got involved with National Forensic League, which was speech and debate in high school at the high school level. I didn't do the debate. I just did the speaking, the dramatic and humorous interpretation, that sort of thing. And I can remember some of the first contests I went to. I'd get up there and I'd swear the judges could hear my knees knocking together. But those were usually the ones I did the best on.
Wow. So then what made you join the Toastmasters then? It sounds like you had a lot of experience.
I've been away from the whole speaking thing for quite a while. And one of the chamber members, who was long-term Toastmaster, I'd never been involved with Toastmasters before, and he had the idea of starting up a Toastmasters club within the chamber. Prior to that, there had never been a chamber-associated Toastmasters club in the state of Arizona. He'd been a member of Ahwatukee Toastmasters, which was our sponsoring club, and approached the chamber and the board with the idea of forming a chamber Toastmasters club. And so I got involved with that from the beginning, and it's been a good ride since then.
I never joined Toastmasters, but I did something kind of similar to that. I had a lot of fun. There's a guy that lives in Maricopa called Tony Visage. The Tempe Arts Center, he had a comedy school. And it was 3 nights a week for 4 weeks, and then you end, everybody in the class, they have a comedy show. And I thought that was just a blast. and then he also has an improv class. And I was bored. I thought, that sounded fun, but it's kind of fun to push yourself into something that you're not familiar with. So people, if they're, I would think if you were listening to this on LinkedIn, and it might be really good for your career to be good at Toastmasters. You might, I imagine, if you're shy and you're talking to a board member or presenting a paper or whatever, if you were scared, you might not come off as well.
Well, it's most people think of Toastmasters is just about public speaking, which is part of it, but not all of it, because it's really about learning to become a better communicator. So not only does that mean developing your speaking skills, your organizational skills, but it also means developing your listening skills. In Toastmasters, we say you got 2 of these and 1 of these. And learning how to become a better listener, I think, is as much, if not a bigger part, of learning how to become a better communicator.
Nice. That's why you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, huh?
Exactly.
So who are your communicator role models? Like who are we? I'm 55. I don't know how old are you?
I'm 64.
Man, you look good. I would have guessed you were the same age. So in your 64 years,
yeah.
Who do you think are the legendary communicators in your society?
Gosh. That's a question I really don't consider that much, but I can tell you what I find very interesting is one of the things in Toastmasters, one of the functionary roles in Toastmasters at every meeting, you have what's called an awe counter.
Awe counter?
Awe counter.
AWE?
AH.
Oh, awe. Okay.
And their role is whenever they hear those filler words, the ahs, the ums, the ands, so's, etc., they click. They have a clicker. And what that does is that helps you learn to hear those filler words before they escape your lips. And then pause a second, go on without that. What it also does is it ruins listening to everybody else. Because you listen to a talk show and you listen to the guests on a talk show, and it's and ooh half their airtime is with filler words. So I'm thinking click 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 click, and that's the way Toastmasters works, though, because it teaches you to hear that and listen for that and be so much more aware of that. When President Obama first started doing talk shows, he was absolutely horrendous. First time I saw him on, I think it was Letterman, he was just, every other word was and. And over the course of his presidency, he also obviously had some very good speech trainers because he improved dramatically over the course of time. But that's one of the things Toastmasters teaches you. It teaches you to hear those things. Like I say, it spoils you for just listening to people objectively because you're always hearing that. And it just jumps out at you because you're so much more aware.
So you know what me and Obama have in common?
What's that?
We both have a mama who's born and raised in Kansas.
Okay.
Did you know his mom was from Kansas?
I didn't.
Yeah, and so you started Nick Computers in, what year was that?
2004.
2004. So you've been doing that for 13 years. Yeah. And that's amazing because, and what year did you get to Ahwatukee?
I moved to Ahwatukee in 2008.
So 2000, from 2008, and it's almost 2018. So you've almost been here 10 years. Yep. Think of how many businesses have come and gone.
I do.
And whenever, you young kids out there, when someone has been in business for 13 years, you can't fool people for 13 years. I mean, I think the average restaurant in America only lasts 2 years. And in this tight-knit community, that's extremely successful. Congratulations on surviving 13 years in the computer business. So if my homies go to nickscomputerguys.com, what do they find and what exactly do you do?
Basically, our focus is to provide technology services to small business and residential clients. Small business-wise, ideal size for us is about 20 to 25. More than that is a little out of our capabilities.
When you say who's Who else?
Well, I'm using the royal we, if you will.
The royal we. What's the royal we?
Well, the royal we is that I have virtual employees, independent contractors that I call on when the workload exceeds my capabilities.
Nice.
So it's not the point where I can hire people part-time or full-time.
So what percent of you is B2B, business to business, and what percent is B2C to the individual Ahwatukee consumer?
I would say probably between 70 and 80% is B2B. But a lot of that includes home-based businesses because there are literally thousands of home-based businesses in Ahwatukee.
Seriously?
Seriously.
People that work from home or people that have their own business in their home?
Both. But there are just tons of home-based businesses in Ahwatukee.
Like give examples, or like when what?
Well, a good friend of mine does draperies and seat coverings. Recovers cushions, things like that. She runs her business from home. So there are tons of businesses.
You should have her come on the show.
One of my clients is an executive headhunting firm, a placement firm, I should say, and their whole business really, all of their employees work from home, and I think they rent space in a virtual office for conferences, but it's basically a home-based business, fairly successful business.
Wow.
So there are dozens and dozens and dozens of those throughout Ahwatukee. I would say they probably outnumber the storefronts.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
You see that a lot if you get immersed in the chamber, and I know you guys recently joined.
Yeah, I'm always in a dental office and reading dental journals. I don't.
Well, the thing about the Ahwatukee Chamber, many years ago when I had my audiovisual company, I joined the Scottsdale Chamber, and I found it was large, impersonal, and cliquish. And if anything, that's the antithesis of what the Ahwatukee Chamber is. This chamber here, it's a lot like Ahwatukee. It's very reflective of Ahwatukee. Ahwatukee is a small town that just happens to be part of Phoenix.
Right.
And there's this small town vibe here that's just absolutely priceless. I mean, you mean go on the other side of the 10 for what?
Yeah. I mean, I only leave Ahwatukee if I have to go to the airport.
And the business community is much the same way. And the chamber reflects that here. It's not really cliquish at all. It's my impression from the beginning has been it's about businesses helping businesses be successful. Because if I help you be successful, whether I get anything out of it immediately or not is irrelevant. Because if you're successful, it goes to the whole community as being successful. It all comes back around. And this chamber is also, most chamber of commerces are primarily business-centric. They're focused on business. This chamber is almost as much focused on community and plays a very big role in the community. It's not just about business, it's about the place of business in community and how it relates to community. They have a separate 501 foundation that's strictly geared to working with the community. Some of the programs they work with, the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, which is basically like a Shark Tank for middle and high school students.
Really?
It's a national program.
Oh my gosh.
And we're one of the first in Arizona to have one here in Ahwatukee. And that's run through the Chamber of Commerce.
I got a bald head. I could be Mr. Wonderful. Who would you be? Mark Cuban or?
I don't know.
Yeah, you haven't decided.
But so it does a lot of work with the community, a lot of volunteer work with the community. The Women in Business offers several scholarships every year, which are open to community members. So I just like the involvement with the community that really distinguishes it from a lot of the other chambers.
That is really cool. Really cool. Do you think the Scottsdale one, I'm not going to be rude, but I think the Scottsdale one's more cliquish because that's kind of more like Scottsdale?
And that was my impression when I was a member. Now, granted, I'll say I didn't get a lot out of it while I was a member, but I probably didn't understand the whole networking concept as much then as I do now. And I'm sure that had something to do with it. But my experience was it was just kind of huge and impersonal.
You know, everything starts with trust and integrity and morality, and I just like doing business in Ahwatukee with people. I mean, if you look, I've lived in Ahwatukee 30 years, so you almost can't meet someone in Ahwatukee where you don't know someone who knows someone. Maybe your kids went to Desert Vista,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, and it just seems more trusting when you do all your business in your backyard.
That was one of the cool things I found when I was dating my wife, and I'd be down here. We'd be in the supermarket. My wife's a dental hygienist.
Really?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Angela Thurber.
Angela, and who she work for?
Right now, she works for, I think it's Perfect Teeth in Tempe.
Nice.
She used to work for Southwest Dental, which before they became
Southwest Dental. That was Mark. What was his name? Mark. I forgot the founder of that. But she's a hygienist. So does she brush and flush your teeth for you every morning and night?
No, but
you just come home and hold your
she's
beer
taught
and
me
lean your
how
head back?
much better dental hygiene than I used to have. But
Is she a teeth perfectionist?
she notices teeth.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been doing it about as long as you've been a dentist.
Yeah.
And but when we were dating, I'd be down here, we'd be walking the supermarket, and she'd meet patients there with their family, say hello and all that. And I just really loved that vibe, that small town. I've lived in small towns, really small towns. And
Where were you born in? California?
I
New
grew
York?
up. I grew up in the LA area, but in New York, I lived in a little town, village called Chester, for about 5 years, which was their biggest claim to fame while I was there is that they have McDonald's was built there. But I mean, this is a place that the buildings date back to the 1700s.
Where do you live in Ahwatukee now? You're in Club West?
Yeah.
So do you think that 202 might change any of our... We used to be the largest cul-de-sac.
I'm very much aware of that.
I mean, what was an Indian reservation, a mountain park ranch? What do you think about the 202? What are your thoughts on that?
We've been active in the opposition with Park, involved both in volunteer work as well as donations.
With Park?
Protecting Arizona's Resources and Children. That was the primary group that was leading the opposition to the 202, which is now in the hands of the judge panel in the Ninth Court of Appeals.
It's still in court?
Yeah. They just did their oral arguments last month for the appeal.
But I thought it was under construction.
It is.
But it's under construction and still in court.
Mm-hmm. Which would be really interesting.
Educate me. What is going on?
If the court finds in our favor and requires ADOT and the Federal Highway Administration to stop what they're doing and put it back, there's precedent for that legally. But I don't see quite how they can put back mountains that they've already blown up.
Are they doing that already?
They're doing blasting in the foothills.
Wow. So are you so far back that you can hear or feel the blastings?
We don't. Where I am, as the crow flies, it's less than a mile from the freeway or from Pecos, but there are enough hills in between we really don't hear that. I expect when you get into if they finish it and you have a steady stream of semis, I expect we'll hear and feel those.
That was one of the tipping points of why I wanted to build a message board. I'm doing this Tukeetown, this message board forum, so it could be a way of more staying in the loop. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, Ahwatukee 411, which is the Facebook group, I'm sure you're familiar with.
Absolutely.
And then also Next Door.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I am. I do the Next Door, but I just don't like the news feed of it. I like the. I'm just old school. I only like the message board forums. I mean, if I go to Nextdoor or those Facebook groups, it just seems like you're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Are you familiar with message board forum?
Not really, no.
Well, you'll see it in a couple weeks, but I mean, in dentistry, you go to a dental website and it's root canal filling crown. I want to organize like that, like schools, churches, But man, you are really involved. So talk us through. Let's start with the business, then go to consumer. Why are businesses calling Nick's Computer Guys?
Well, as I said, our target business is the smaller businesses up to 2025. It's not physically possible for them to support an IT staff. It's not reasonable.
Right.
So effectively, I become a virtual IT department where I can put them under a maintenance agreement where I go in every month remotely. I make sure all their computers are running properly. A lot of times I will find issues that they weren't even aware of developing, get them fixed before they even know there was a problem. And basically, when computers are down in a small business, let's face it, in today's world, your business stops or close to it because we've come to depend on computers that much. So if you can guarantee that your computers are up well into the positive 95, 98, 99 percentile uptime, then that's going to have a difference in how your business runs. And that's, depending on the business, that's obviously worth paying for.
So in just focusing on Ahwatukee, who's the best internet provider? Would it be Cox? Or you hear?
Yeah, I tend to lean toward Cox. CenturyLink is catching up, but they got a long ways to go.
Now, CenturyLink was what? They're big out of Texas?
I don't know. It's what used to be Quest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that.
And basically, I mean, when you go back a few years before the advent of fiber, which has changed everything, but basically are two different technologies for providing service. CenturyLink uses a DSL, which comes in service, which basically comes in over your copper telephone lines. And Cox went with the cable route, which comes in via the same type of cable as your TV. And the cable service supported higher speeds and was more consistent in speed across the runs. Whereas DSL, the fundamental problem with DSL is, first of all, you had a top speed limit just based on the fact that you're running it over telephone lines. And second of all, the speed decreased the farther away you were from what they call a central office, which is a switching station. So the farther away you get from that, the slower your speed. Whereas cable is pretty consistent. It's not dependent on how far away you are. And so at that time, that was the biggest difference. And I had clients, I have one client that's in that center on Ray and 48th, the northeast corner. And that corner was strictly CenturyLink, and they were right at the end of the line. Their internet speeds, this is almost dial-up days, 3 megabits.
Wow.
3 megabits is painfully slow by today's standards, almost to the point of being barely usable. And this one client was actually very seriously considering moving out of the center. Their lease was coming due, and just because of that, they were looking at that. And I was fortunate enough to be. It kind of worked out really well there because one of the people I work with a communications broker who deals with all the different communication companies. The shopping center management or owner had been very resistant to Cox coming in because of the cost, and they didn't want to deal with that. And he managed to, my broker managed to get the shopping center people and Cox to come together and talk and figure out a way to bring in, and this was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, when this all first started, because Cox was expanding fiber into Ahwatukee. Ahwatukee was one of the first areas in the country to get home fiber, their Gigablast service.
Fiber optic?
Yeah. We were one of the test markets in the country.
What year was that?
Last year.
Last year?
And so...
But there's not like fiber on like your street or my street.
Well, I don't know about here, but...
Ryan, we looked into that, didn't we? Cox doesn't have fiber optic on my street.
That's possible.
But it's on your street
Yeah.
in Club West?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you just reminded me of a story. I got to tell you the funny story. So I opened my office in 1987. and I was right where the subway was. You know, right where Safeway is. So I was right there from 87 to 94. Well, there was 4 pads in the shopping lift, and back in like 87, Chicken El Pollo, Asada bought one, Chase bought another one, Pizza bought a third one, and I was sitting there looking at the last one right in front of my office and said, I really need more room, and I don't want to rent for 45, 50 years, so I bought that lot. Well, when I went to approve them to build my dental office, the city said that increased the traffic, it tipped it over a number, so I had to pay for that building of that bus stop there. And then when I was in my office, I wanted internet, and I had to, they had to cut across the street. I mean, for me to install Cox Cable in 1994, I had to pay for the cut across the street. I mean, it was a huge investment. I thought, oh my gosh, I had no idea in my budget that I'd have to build a bus stop for $40,000 and pay for them to trench across 48th Street. But
unfortunately, the internet market, the telecommunications market, has become a lot more competitive, and there's less of that today than there used to be. Simply because if they're not in a market and they need to be, and they can justify, the expense based on potential customers, they'll front the money to do that.
So what percent of your customers have switched from cable and DSL to fiber optic?
Well, of course, in the business side, it's a lot different because business internet is a lot more expensive than residential.
Really, like what's the difference? Like what would be home and what would be business for a company with 20?
Well, I mean, like I pay, what was it, roughly, I think it's $80 a month for Gigablast service, which is 900 megabits plus downstream.
Is it pretty nice?
It's instant.
Dang.
And businesses...
Do you have a map that we could, after your podcast, post in the comments of where it's available?
That would probably be available on the Cox site.
On the Cox site website?
Yeah.
So just go to Cox.com?
Yeah.
Or I think they're .net, aren't they?
They used to be strictly Cox.net, but I think they've added the Cox.com, because if you go Cox.net, it redirects to .com.
Ryan, go to Cox.com and see, because that'd be nice to have instant internet.
It's
Ryan,
a big
we're
difference.
doing podcasts and things like that. If it's available, we should get it.
But businesses will pay more than that for 20 megabits downstream. Just because the pricing tiers on business are a lot higher than they are for home. It's slowly changing. There's obviously been some backlash from that. It's like, why can I get Gigablast service for $80 at home, and it costs me $150 to get 20 megs at my business location?
And if you're in healthcare like I am, why do they sell the prescription pills $10 a piece in the United States and $1 a piece in China? And 50 cents in India. I think that's
well, yeah, we can go all kinds of directions with that. But so yeah, internet service and CenturyLink is they're playing catch up right now. They're starting to bring in fiber, which is huge because it starts to overcome the biggest shortcoming. But what they've done, on a lot of the residential areas where they still comes in on phone lines, is they run 2 phone lines, and they basically they combine them. That used to be how they would get all the way up to 40 megabits, was they'd combine 2 20 meg lines to give you 40 megs, and now they're advertising up to 100 megs. And 100 megs is about Cox's second tier service, so they still got a long ways to go.
So what do you think, people listening, what are the biggest mistakes you see in IT? I mean, is it they didn't properly back up their computer? Was it they had got ransomware? My oldest son, he had to throw away his computer. He had this deal, and he had to pay a ransom deal, and he just decided to throw away his laptop.
Well,
he got a different one. Have you heard of any ransomware?
Yeah. I've been dealing with ransomware for at least the last 6 or 7 years.
Explain what ransomware is.
Well, in the beginning, ransomware was pretty basic. You'd turn on through whatever means you contracted it, and you would get a message on your screen that said, the first real major one was the FBI scam, where you get a message on your screen saying that the FBI had detected that you were accessing child pornography on your computer, and they had frozen your computer, locked it, unless you paid X amount of money to them via an untraceable delivery like Western Union or and later Bitcoin, and basically then they would unlock your computer. Now this was a complete scam because it was actually really easy to get around, but for people who didn't know, you're stuck there. You can't do anything with your computer. It's got this big screen on it, nasty red colors, and designed to terrify you.
The FBI wouldn't want your money anyway. They'd want you in jail.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If the FBI is running an investigation, they're going to be coming through your front door. They're not going to freeze your computer and give you warning.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the fake IRS calls that are out there now. So ransomware has progressed quite a bit since those days. Now the idea is they run a program on your computer which encrypts all of your files, which means you cannot open them. All of your data files, and typically 60 to 80 different kinds of files, whether it's Word, Excel, PDF files, picture files, they're all encrypted. You can't open them. And then they say, okay, we encrypted all of your files. If you want us to give you the decryption key so you can open them up again, you have to pay X $100 or X 100 Bitcoins, which is an untraceable electronic currency, within 2 days. And of course, we all have Bitcoin accounts, right? Most people don't even know what Bitcoin is. And most of us, the vast majority of people, don't have Bitcoin accounts. And then if you don't pay it within the first deadline, they double the price. And we're talking $500, $600,000 or more. And for businesses, even more. And then they say, if you don't make the second deadline, then we'll destroy the decryption key. You'll never see your files again. And
you've seen this in Ahwatukee.
It's all over the world.
But it's also in Ahwatukee.
Well, it
happened to my son.
If you're connected to the internet, you have the opportunity to get hit.
Are there things you can do to avoid that?
To a certain extent, yes. The biggest challenge, most of the ransomware, that's probably the biggest type of malware threat out there globally. And when I say globally, I mean you take a look not too far back. There was one ransomware that hit the entire health system in England. It was very well publicized. It essentially stopped all of their IT services cold. Nobody died from that. I personally believe it's a matter of when, not if. If you can cripple key technology resources in the right place at the right time, people are going to die. It hasn't happened yet, thank goodness, but the potential is certainly there. So what you can do, there are a couple of things. First of all, I'm pretty anal about backing up. Backing up is the only guaranteed strategy of protection. And I've never heard anybody express it this way, I call it the rule of two. Your data needs to be on at least two different physical devices, meaning your computer hard drive and external hard drive, and in at least two different physical locations. In other words, where you use your computer and somewhere else that's not where you use your computer, typically cloud backup. That's the only absolute guarantee that you can recover from any kind of attack. And what ransomware will do is, let's say you're using an online backup system and it backs up typically every time you change a file, it automatically gets backed up to the cloud. So you get hit with ransomware. Well, it's automatically going to back up everything back up to the cloud that got encrypted. But the better backup systems use what's called versioning, which means that not only do they store what they just backed up, they store previous versions, up to 5 or 6 versions of the files. So in that event, you restore from the previous version before it got encrypted, you're back up and running. That's the really only absolute guarantee that you can recover from ransomware, assuming you don't want to spend the money to pay somebody. And here's the thing. Are you really going to trust somebody that's gone into your computer without your permission, encrypted all your files, and then says, pay me $500 and I'll give them back to you? Are you going to trust that person? Well, it's a kind of a two-edged thing here. First of all, first inclination is, heck no. Why would I trust somebody that's just violated my computer? The second thing, though, the flip side is the amount of response the ransomware perpetrators get from this and the amount of payments they get is going to be dependent on the reputation that they have established of actually giving people the decryption keys once they've been paid. All of the major police forces around the globe advise not paying them. Just to give you an idea of the difference, how ransomware has grown. In 2015, ransomware payments accounted for something around $16 million globally. Okay? 2015. In 2016, you want to take a guess at what that number was?
30 million. You said it was 15 million?
It's about 16 million
16
in 2015.
Million? What was it in 16?
1 billion.
1 billion.
With a B. Now, you have to understand.
Is this something that's fueling all this Bitcoin that you read about all the time? Is that
well,
Bitcoin
is an independent entity, but Bitcoin is essentially an untraceable internet currency. That's why the ransomware people use that for payment, because it can't be traced. But what you have to understand is what you're actually up against here. Okay, these are not code kiddies that are playing around for ego gratification to see, look what I hacked. Okay, the ransomware today is coming from very well-funded criminal organizations, mostly based in Eastern Europe. A lot comes from India. We're talking about working in countries where, as long as you don't attack the citizens of the country and grease the palms of the appropriate officials, they ignore you. And you're talking buildings full of very highly paid programmers writing this crap and perpetrating it out to the world. They sell kits on the dark web. Build your own. You know, you got the basic kit, you modify a few lines of code and put it out there. Okay, this is what we're up against. And this is why police forces across the world are working together on this stuff. This is why most of your major antivirus companies, even though they're direct competitors, work together to combat ransomware, because it's such an absolute threat. Now, one of the other things you can do, now backup is number one, and I can't say enough about backup. I mean, first of all,
you said two backups. One in two different locations.
Right.
So take one home with you from work, or back one up to the cloud.
Right. Backups only work if they're automatic and you don't have to think about them. So let's face it, if you have to make a physical decision to do a backup every day, you're probably not going to do it. Just people are not going to do it. And so
some people even forget to floss.
This is true. And so you need something that's totally automatic that you don't have to think about. But the other thing that you can do to help combat ransomware, there's some free programs out there. And what they do, the one I've been using, and they've done some testing on it, it's been really, really good, it's a program called Ransom Free. It's by a company called Cyber Reason. It's all one word. And what it does is it places files or folders in different places around your computer. And then it monitors those files constantly. Now, normally there would be no reason in normal use for you to change those files. If it detects one of its monitored files has been changed, it immediately shuts down whatever process changed that file, which would be ransomware, and then throws up a warning on your screen.
But how does the ransomware get in there? I mean, is it someone sent you like a PDF file that you shouldn't have opened, or an Excel? Did we do something wrong in our email to get the ransomware?
All right. There's a number of different ways you can contract ransomware or any other malware. One of the most popular has been emails in the past. They're still a big source of ransomware. And the challenge here is you get an email, well, it says it's from somebody you know, a friend of yours, and hey, check this link out. Well, what they're doing is they're spoofing that email address, which means that they've compromised some computer somewhere that had that email address in its address book, and they picked it at random and said, okay, this is going to be the sender. And we'll make it look like it's coming from this person. You click on that link. Take a guess from the time you click on a link in an email, how long it takes to infect your computer.
How long?
5 seconds.
Wow.
That's about as long as it takes to, oops, I shouldn't have clicked on that. Too late.
Now, are some emails safer? I mean, like let's say you have an AOL account and one from your office, one from Gmail. I'm just thinking, since Gmail is Google and Google has 20,000 gazillion employees, would it be more likely that Google deleted all those emails, or would you be less likely to get ransomware on a Gmail account?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
It's really irrelevant.
Really?
The mail server is irrelevant. I mean, all the mail servers, they all have antivirus programs there, and they spend millions and millions of dollars on security. But it's still not enough to stop everything that gets. There will still be stuff that gets through. And one of the easiest things you can do is, if you get an email, even if it purports to be from somebody that you know and recognize, the first rule is, unless you know what they're sending you and that they've sent you something, don't open it. If you don't know who it's from, forget about it. Banks, financial institutions, any kind of company like that, whether it's Cox or FedEx, they're not going to send you stuff that requires you to click on links. But what you can do in your email program is, if you just hover the cursor over the sender email address, and let's say the email address says important@fedex.com, and if you hover over it and it's a bogus email, I can guarantee you it doesn't say anything remotely resembling FedEx.
Really?
That's a dead giveaway.
So just hover your icon,
your cursor over the sender address.
Really?
And it'll show you where it really came from, or at least where. And there's all kinds of ways. I'm not a programmer, but you can mask an email address in code.
Can I do a lot of my email on my iPhone? If I opened up the wrong attachment, went to a link on my iPhone, could it do that to my iPhone? Or if I opened up on my iPhone?
Only if it's specifically targeted toward the iOS operating system. Now, do you have antivirus on your iPhone?
No idea.
Which means probably not. Okay, here's the thing. I put in, like the Frank's hot sauce commercial, I put antivirus on everything.
Even your phone?
Absolutely. What is this? It's a handheld computer. You've got more computing power in that smartphone than NASA had in 1969 when they put man on the moon. Okay? You're walking around with a computer in your pocket. Okay? Why shouldn't it be protected from viruses?
I've never even heard of anybody putting antivirus software on their smartphone.
Well, there are a lot of people out there that put themselves at risk. There have been viruses being foisted on smartphones, and I don't care whether it's Apple, Android, or the predecessors, for going back into I think the first recorded instance of a virus on a phone goes back to the 60s.
So you're recommending Cyber Reason, REASON? That's your favorite?
That's the company. Now, this is just for installing. It's a ransomware protection for computers.
Does it do all the other malware stuff too, or would you?
No, it's an addition to your primary antivirus.
And what is your recommended primary antivirus?
I'm a big fan of Avast.
Spell it.
AVAST exclamation, like Avast.
AVAST exclamation. Avast.com?
Avast, yeah.
Avast.com?
It's
and then add Cyber Reason viewpoints.com to that.
Yeah, that runs in the background also. I mean, they basically do two different things. Avast offers a free version and a paid version. The free version uses the same engine, the same definitions as the paid version. The paid version gives you a few more bells and whistles, but detection rates are comparable to all of the more familiar names like McAfee and Norton.
McAfee and Norton.
I like Avast because it doesn't take up as much system resources, so it doesn't slow your computer down as much.
And when you were talking about backing up to the cloud, what cloud do you recommend?
That would depend on the individual and what their needs are. There's tons and tons of different backup strategies out there. If you're a consumer, I sell Carbonite, which is a fairly inexpensive. It's $60 a year, which is pretty reasonable. That's per computer. And you have unlimited storage, so you set it, it does one full backup, which depending on how much data you have can take anywhere from a few hours to a week or two. And then anytime you change a file, it backs up the change. So it's guaranteed, you don't have to think about it. It's all works in the background, and it works very, very well. Now, for businesses, I'll go with probably a more robust solution, depending on what they need, up to and including for companies that are running a server-based network where their tolerance for downtime is virtually zero. There are backup systems in place where they will you effectively have a virtual server that mirrors your server. So if your server goes down or is taken down, you can switch over in a matter of a few minutes to a virtual server and be back up and running, maybe a little bit slower, but still back up and running at full functionality until the issues with your primary server are resolved. So, I mean, there's a huge gamut. I mean, from $60 a year to, several $1,000s a year.
I was surprised how much Amazon is into cloud storage.
Yeah.
I mean,
they've been involved with it for a long time.
Yeah, they're big time into cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever use Amazon or not really?
I personally don't.
Yeah.
They're most of the the more popular cloud-based services, and we're doing a lot more with just plain cloud storage of data, like for instance Google Drive, Google Docs, Microsoft OneDrive.
So those are cloud storage too?
They're different from backup. They're basically, that's where you store all your documents.
Okay, Google Docs. So
or Microsoft OneDrive. So for instance, if I use actually both Google Drive and OneDrive for different reasons, but if I need to look up anything, I have access to my data from any computing device that has an internet connection, including my phone. So I can pull up my invoices from this year. If you have a question about an invoice, I can go to my phone, pull it up. And it's...
Because then you don't have to worry about that because it's not on your computer.
It is on your computer, but it's also stored in the cloud. So again, this goes to the rule of two. Now, I'm pretty fanatic with my personal systems. My laptop backs up critical data to my server, and then everything is stored in the cloud as well. So I have it at least 3 or 4 places. But then again, like I say, I don't lose any data.
So, my gosh, that was the fastest hour. I can't believe. Can you believe we've been talking an hour? How do people contact you if they want to talk about this?
Best way is the phone 480-242-4997, or you can email me info@nixcomputerguys.com. You can also text to that phone number,
which is 480-242-4997. And if they go to your website, is there...
there's a contact page on our website as well.
There's a contact... Let me get on my grandpa readers. Okay, there's a contact page there. Yep, there it is. Info at nixcomputerguys.com. And I see you say you service all brands, including Acer, Asus, Dell, Gateway, HP,
and Mac.
And Mac. That's interesting. You said you were 80-20, 80% business, 20% consumer. What's the split on Mac versus what do you call a non-Mac? Just a PC?
Windows PC.
Windows PC. What's the split out there?
Macs, I think right now they occupy about, I want to say, give or take 12 to 15% of the global market.
So it's still rare.
It's a small percentage.
I got to tell you my Mac story. So one of my boys went to ASU, 3 went to NAU, and the one doing my podcast is kind of like you. He liked audio visual and he all that stuff, and he just came back. And when he was in college, he's like, "Dad, you're an old grandpa. You gotta switch to Mac. You just do it, Dad." So I thought, okay. The young kids are, I know what that's like. So I finally made the commitment, and I switched to Mac. And it was the worst 2 weeks of my life. I mean, I swear to God, it's a good thing I had a ground floor, because if I'd been on a high rise, I think I would have thrown it out the window and it might have killed someone. That was just horrible.
It's definitely a transition.
And he's sitting there filming this on a Mac right now. And the thing that he does that's even crazier, he doesn't even use a mouse. He uses his finger on the deal. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, I want my mouse and I want my Dell computer.
Of course, we're getting more and more toward touchscreens, which Apple is lagging a bit behind on. I'd like to make one point before we close out.
Oh, here. Absolutely! You can make all the points you want.
One of the things I look at, a common question is what differentiates Nick's Computer Guys from your average technology service, and I like to think of it this way. Most techies come from a tech standpoint, tech first, and then everything else follows from tech. And maybe it's because of my background, maybe it's just because of my focus, but I kind of flip that around, and I like to think that Nick's Computer Guys is more of a people-centric company. We're people first, and then helping them use their technology. So, for instance, in a networking group, I may stand up and say, "I'm Nick from Nick's Computer Guys. We don't do programming, we don't do websites, we don't fix computers. What we do is help people who are technology challenged or whose technology has taken a different turn than they wanted, and we help them get back to doing what they need to do as quickly as possible." It's more than just semantics. It's just a whole business philosophy that we focus on the people side of it. How do you use your computer? How can we help you use it more effectively, more efficiently, and more cost effectively? And that's, I think, what differentiates us from the average tech service company.
Well, my God, you are such a people person. I mean, you teach Toastmasters. You won the Volunteer of the Year award. You're exactly why I wanted to do Tukeetown, so that Ahwatukee can see who's living here in our own backyard. And my God, you're an amazing man.
Thank you.
So what if they are not just technically challenged, but public speaking challenged? How do they contact you? Same email for Toastmasters?
You can use that email. Let's see. Or you can contact the Ahwatukee Chamber of Commerce. And they'll,
where does that name even come from, Toastmasters? Is it
theoretically...
Toast?
It's not the toast you eat, but toast. Here's to the bride and groom.
Oh, okay. I always thought it was toast. Maybe that's I like toast and jelly.
It's a standing joke. Toastmasters doesn't have bread with it.
Oh, is that right? And then what if they wanted to join the Ahwatukee Chamber of Commerce? Can they same email?
No, they contact the Ahwatukee Chamber.
What's that website?
AhwatukeeChamber.com.
And how much does it cost to join?
That they have several different membership levels.
Yeah.
So it just depends. Their membership director is Gina Jenkins, and she can explain the different levels that they have. From individual levels on up to there's I think 4 different business levels.
You know why I didn't join?
What's that?
I would never join an organization that would take me as a member. That's an old Rodney Dangerfield joke. He said I'd never join a country club that would take me as a member. And tell your wife my favorite Rodney Dangerfield joke for Dennis is he told the dentist, how do I make my teeth whiter? And he said, wear a brown tie. Your wife will like that one. But Nick, what a hell of a guy. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking to my Ahwatukee homies. I'm sure you're going to make a few friends of doing that. And thanks for being... why did you think you got Arizona Volunteer of the Year award that year?
Well, I feel that if you're successful in business, you have an obligation to give back to the community. And I could tell you a story. It's probably a little long for our time, but let's just say I had a revelation a number of years ago, and it kind of changed my way of thinking. It was an epiphany, if you will. And from that point on, I realized that I was not doing what I needed to do to give back. And so as far as the chamber and in the community, I feel that as a successful business person and a successful member of the community, there's an obligation to give back, and that can take all kinds of different forms, from volunteering. I mean, I helped with the fireworks, Red, White, and Boom, until that was discontinued last year or this year, and it's just about giving back to the community. And so we each have different ways of doing that.
And what was your revelation? What was your epiphany?
Okay, yes, for it. My midlife crisis involved a 2001 Mitsubishi Eclipse Spider convertible. Midlife crisis, candy apple red, tan interior, which I customized and showed at car shows. And I was involved in both a national car club related to Mitsubishis as well as a local club. And we had put together a car show in what's the name of the town? Not Lake Havasu. It's
Parker?
It's on the river.
Bullhead City?
Bullhead City. And we put together a car show in Bullhead City. And then Laughlin was where we stayed. And it's the first time we'd done a car show with our club sponsored. And I'd gone up there for the weekend for that. And then I had to, the end of the week, Monday, I had to go over to our Las Vegas office to do some work on their computers. So I'm driving back to Phoenix, in Monday night. And I get into the Lake Pleasant area about 1 a.m. or so, and there's not much traffic, clear weather, I got the tunes pounding. And, so I'm cruising a little bit faster than the speed limit, shall we say. And I crest a hill, and all of a sudden my radar detector goes, Wah! Laser hit. Okay, well, all right, yeah, you got me cold. And down at the bottom of the hill, I see lights come on a vehicle, so I backed it down, and I cruised by the sheriff in his SUV, and he pulled in behind me, and I just kept cruising while I'm assuming he was running my plates, and I carefully took the radar detector off the windshield and put it under the seat. And then when he eventually turned his lights on, I pulled over, and he was probably maybe expecting a mouthy kid behind the wheel, because it was a customized sport compact car. And as we were doing this little parade here, I got religious. I said, God, okay, get me out of this. I know I'm probably into the misdemeanor speeding range here. Get me out of this. I'll do something for you, I promise. And so I had a conversation with the officer. Like I said, I think he was expecting maybe a mouthy kid, and instead found a middle-aged, respectful person behind the wheel. And basically, you got an idea how fast you're going? Well, not exactly, but I expect you're probably going to tell me. And I wasn't being smart about it, and basically and ended up letting me off with a warning. He could have put me in the backseat of his car in cuffs and taken me to jail. And the long and short of it was he let me off with a warning. He said, okay, just back it down, take it easy, get home to your wife and family. And so the next year, that was my epiphany. The next year, we did the car show in Bullhead City, and we did it as a benefit for a local organization that benefited victims of domestic abuse. And that was kind of the start of that.
So this all came from a speeding ticket
that I didn't get.
Nice. That is nice.
So that's kind of been that was my epiphany and my kind of focus that I needed to start getting back in.
Well, thanks for being one of Ahwatukee's 1,000 points of light. It takes. I thought it was very strange. I don't like to talk about religion, sex, politics, or violence, but there was a lady a couple of years ago who said that it takes a village to raise a child, and I couldn't believe how much pushback she got on that. Like, oh, I don't want. I'll raise my own child. It's like, no, it takes a village. You need schools and police officers and fire departments and doctors, and you need all kinds of stuff. It takes a village, and it when people give back to their community, it just makes it such a better community.
It does.
So thank you for all that you've done for the community, and it was just an honor to podcast interview you.
Thank you, Howard.